You did. You said, can we do this on the TIs?
Oh.
Because, I mean, it's great to do it manually. It really is. I love having the manual drawing or using Excel to do it. But I'll tell you what, Excel is not the easiest thing to make a histogram in. And it is downright annoying to make a box plot in. There is no built-in box plot. You can create one, but it's a total pain in the butt. So a TI, although it's low res, it's definitely a really, really quick and easy way of getting a box plot up. And sometimes the res isn't as important as just the scaling, as JC said, seeing the groupings. So here's the data. I have it in L1 and L2, frequencies in L2, data in L1. First thing, let's make a histogram. Let's make a histogram. So second y equals gets us to our stat plotter. Turn plot 1 on. And then select the histogram. And then we have to adjust these X lists and frequencies, right? L1, L2, you got that. L1 and L2. L1 and L2. That's what you want. That's what you want, because your data is in L1 and your frequencies are in L2. You got to tell your TI that, otherwise it's going to give you a... If anybody's ever hit their graph button and gotten a straight line of rectangles across, that means a uniform distribution. That means you got one of each data point. Go ahead, Sherilyn.
Which type did you say?
This guy right here.
Okay.
Your histogram type. Fair enough? Now here's a bug. I've mentioned this verbally in the past. I want to mention it again. If you press the zoom button right now, not all of you will get to this menu. There's a glitch the TI has if you on a newer TI-84. If you're down in here, you see how the alpha mode is locked on? If you try to press the zoom button right now, because we're going to go to zoom 9. That's the easiest window to get for a stat. But anybody with an 84, if they go straight to the zoom button, do you get a weird little set of icons that pop up? There's two ways to get around that. You can press the alpha button and turn it off, or you can just arrow up until you're not on those selections anymore. The problem is there's a set of green buttons up here, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, and the TI-83 does not have any of those, but the TI-84 does. I mean, the TI-83 has them printed on it, but they don't do anything. The TI-84, they actually do something, but you don't want them to be accessed right now. You just want to have the histogram turned on. Fair? Okay. So, zoom 9. There's our histogram. There's our histogram. Highly skewed, as we knew it was going to be, because we saw the dot plot up here. But this is a good first look. What do I always encourage you to do once you have your histogram?
Mess around.
Finagle. Mess around. Mess around. Mess around with it. Go to your window and say, okay, it picked a scaling of 6 to 50. I'm going to make my scaling go 0 to 50. See, that way it matches exactly the dot plot we did up here. Scale of 6.33 states. What do you think we should use instead of that?
5.
How about 5? Yeah, something a little more logical. That'll drop 10 bars in instead of whatever number of bars it had. You can leave the Y scaling the same for right now, because that's not going to change unless we have to regroup. Then just press graph. There. There. It didn't change a whole lot, did it? It broke down that high left bar into a couple smaller bars, but we're still seeing the definite skewed shape of the distribution. Can we mess more? Of course. You can knock down the scaling to, say, 3 or 2 if you want to. You're going to have a lot of bars with 2. There. But notice the overall shape isn't changing. You've got the lion's share of your data right here, and then a long tail down to the side. If you want, and sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes the TI won't let you do this. You can change the scale to 1.
It won't let you.
It won't. See, I don't understand why. Sometimes it gives you this error. The other class we could yesterday. And I don't understand why on similar data it won't let you. The reason I like going down to 1 is because if you can get it down to 1, what kind of graph are we actually looking at? A dot plot, aren't we? It's actually a dot plot at that point. Because a dot plot is, each bar is 1 unit wide. So we'll stick with 2. We'll stick with 2. That's fine. I can live with that. There. It's dot plot-ish enough. Okay, the idea... Go ahead, Scott.
Do they have an odd number of people in the class? Data points?
I don't remember. Maybe though. Maybe that's why.
Back to singles.
Maybe that's why. I don't know. I've never explored this. I wrote it off as an annoyance. You do like 1.1.
You can.
Yes, you can. You can get as close as you can to 1. Now remember, the TI doesn't. The TI doesn't know we're talking about states. It just knows you're putting up fences to drop data into if it's between 0 and 1.1 or 1.1 and 2.2. So you can break it down further. I don't worry too much about that because what am I really looking for in that histogram? I'm looking for the shape of the curve that I would kind of draw over the top of it. So whether it's down by 2 or down by 1 or down by 3, the shape hasn't changed a whole lot, has it? It hasn't changed a great deal at all. It still looks skewed, highly skewed to the right, leaning to the left, the majority of the data over here. With me so far? Now, before we break, we're almost at, I apologize, we're going over a few minutes today. Let's slap a box plot on there too. Because this answers Kate's question. Can we put both on at the same time? Yes. It's very, very cool. I like having them both at the same time. So here's the deal. Back to your stat plot menu. Second, y equals. Leave plot 1. He's beautiful. We've worked hard to get him so. Go down to plot 2. And turn him on. Under type, go grab one of the 2 box plots. Notice how there's 2 that look kind of box plotish? Grab the middle one in that bottom row. Grab this one. This is called a non-modified box plot. We'll come into the modified one by the end of the day, I promise. They're important too, and we might actually have something fun to look at with our data set. We'll come back to that. Enter. And then set up the frequency and the X-list just like you did for the histogram. L1, L2. Say again, Jamie.
When I try to go down to that one,
You got to keep going to the right. So once you're in the list, keep going right, and eventually it wraps around. It's just TI, 1986 technology. We couldn't go down in 1986. You had to go right and left, like tank pump. Down L1, down L2. There we go. And the beautiful part about this is if you like the window you just had, just hit grab. There it is. There it is. Isn't that badass? Badass. So now you got the histogram with the box and whisker. So you get even more data. You get an idea of the center and the spread, and an idea of relation without having to do the JC and Sean chop dance. Right? Not that that wasn't great. But we don't have time for that all the time. We don't have to dance. It's going to have a lot of stuff. Is that fair? Check this out. One more thing, then we'll take our 5. I apologize for dragging this over. If you change that plot type in number 2 to the other box plot, watch what happens. And this doesn't always happen. Okay, notice how there's a thing called a mark that just showed up at the bottom? Just hit graph. Huh. What's that? If there is an outlier, it will identify it for you. Now, we have been throwing this term outlier around quite a bit, have we not, in this class? We keep saying outlier, outlier, outlier. And when I was reading the other classes in class that they submitted, I think sometimes students are confusing an outlier with just the biggest data value or the smallest data value. Just because a data set has a biggest data value doesn't mean the biggest one has to be an outlier. And just because it has a smallest doesn't mean the smallest one has to be an outlier. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because we're going to see it in spades over the last hour of the class we have together. Because you're going to be sampling your own data on a little in-class quiz we'll do after the break. Outliers are unusually large or unusually small or unusually different data. In this particular one, it's an unusually large data point. But how do we define unusual? That gets interesting, doesn't it? That gets interesting. And we got a whole lesson. We're going to start it on Thursday, drop it into next week that talks about what unusual actually means. We'll get to that, I promise. Not right now, though. Right now, I want you to take 5, get some air and get some water. We're going to come back in and do some more of this. Yeah? Okay. What's up, Patty?